We've got Anatoly calling in from New York who wants to talk about why people turn away from religion.
Okay, so I basically gave like a short sentence about about what I'm claiming. At least, should I state it or?
By all means, yeah. Tell us what you're calling about.
Okay, so basically, it goes on something along the lines of this: is that most people turn away from religious teachings because they don't know what they're turning away from.
Okay. What do you mean by that? They don't know what they're turning away from.
They have a different definition for what they feel certain things in the Bible are, right? And then they don't agree when somebody tells them that that's the definition of something, right? That's what's written in the Bible. They don't agree to that, but yet that's what it says in the Bible. So I don't understand how they could say that that's not the definition of it.
It sounds like you're giving me like
how I see.
It sounds like you're giving me some really like broad statements here, and I'm trying to figure out like what the actual specific is. Because like in my experience, people turn away from religion when they realize that there's no good reason to believe in this God, and that the God isn't worth worshiping in the first place. And the deconstruction that I see most often is that people go out looking for reasons to believe in this God, and they can't find any, and they find lots of reasons not to, so they stop. And then they kind of have like a pantheistic vibe where it's like, well, there's some spiritual thing going on here. Everything's God, everything's connected, whatever. And then they slowly deconstruct from that. But if you're talking about religion, just in terms of you're saying the Bible, you only need to read the Bible to know why you should not believe in the Bible. And you only need to think about the implications of the God of the Bible to know why you shouldn't worship that God either.
Okay. Can I guess state my understanding of, our God, the Christian God, right?
Sure.
Because I went through this too. Like I was religious. I was atheist. I came back to religion. So I'm not saying I don't understand why people leave, right? I fully do understand. I wasn't like, I wanted to be a sinner and I left. It wasn't. I just never heard it said in such a way that made sense to me. Like nobody ever was able to put religion and let's say evolution together for me in a way where I was like, yep, that makes sense.
So let me just ask you a question really quick, a couple of questions just to understand, because you're going to talk about your Christian belief, your belief in the Christian God. Really quickly, do you believe that the Bible is true?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that it is
true? I think
I'm asking a follow-up question. Do you believe that the Bible as a book, as a story, as a history of the universe, do you believe that the Bible is literally 100% true? Every word is accurate? Or do you think that it's something that needs to be interpreted and taken in context, and it's been changed and altered and annotated throughout history, and so some of it's not right, some of it is, and you kind of have to vibe with certain parts of it? Which of those do you believe?
Okay, I guess it would be a combination of those things. So I think every single story is in the Bible is true to us, like not a physical truth like you a scientist would say is true, right? Not like, oh, there was a guy his name was Noah, and he walked around and did all these things, right? But it's kind of like the same way that a very good hero is represented in a story is the way Noah was represented at the time. And it was a different time, too. So that's why people are like, oh, why are all these horrible things? Well, it's because society did all these horrible things. Or like all the slavery in the Bible. Yeah, there was slavery, but there was slavery everywhere then. We moved away from it.
So my follow-up question then, Anatoly, is do you believe that the God character in the Bible is an accurate representation of who and what God actually is?
physical world that we live in, like I think when I spoke to somebody earlier, it was probably one of the people on the team, they said physics, right? They were like, physics, what I'm saying. And I was like, I don't disagree with that. I guess, yeah, it would be physics. It's a physical world everywhere. So physics.
So Anatoly, that was on Talk Heathen. You called in to Talk Heathen today, and you said that God was a mixture of sociology and physics, if I'm not mistaken. You were talking to Kelly and Thinker.
Well, no, they corrected me and said physics, so I'm saying physics, and I was like, sure, I agree. I didn't say physics. They said that that's what I'm saying, and I was like, all right, it's not far away enough from me to disagree to that. Yeah, it's physics.
What?
It's not far away enough for me.
How does that?
Not far away from.
How does that answer the question that I asked?
The physical world. What I said, my idea of God the Father is the physical world, right, with social structure on top of it. That's how it's described, and that's how it literally is described in the Torah. In this case,
what I asked you, I'm going to just repeat my question. Do you think that the God character in the Bible is an accurate representation of what God actually is?
Yeah.
And who God actually is?
Harsh.
Okay.
Harsh. Yeah, it's a harsh reality that we live in.
Okay. So the God character of the Bible, just to be clear, the God character in the Bible is a thinking agent, someone who has authority and has abilities that are beyond the scope of what we presume is the natural world, who can do great and powerful things, and who has emotions and a mind and makes decisions based on whatever's going on in his emotions and mind. We're not just talking about the laws of the universe here, like Spinoza's God. I'm asking you specifically about the God character in the Bible. The one who speaks, the one who acts, the one who makes decisions. That character, you think, is an accurate representation of who and what God really is. That's what I'm asking you.
Well, yeah, those are two. Well, those could be misinterpreted by me. Because I could be like, yes, that's what I think. But
I'm asking what you think. I'm not asking you what you've interpreted. I'm just asking you what you believe.
Right. No, well, I could misinterpret your question. Is what I'm saying.
I don't know how I could possibly make it more clear. Do you want me to restate it in a better way?
Yeah. I could also say that, yes, it's a good interpretation of what God really is. Yes, that's true, right? But also it not be a fact. Because when, like a physical fact, like you think of it as a scientist, and that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when you are about to pursue something and it could work out or not work out, what makes it work out? And what do you need to do what sacrifice do you have to make in order?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry.
I'm so lost. So let's just take what at face value, what I think you're saying, what I am. Tell me if I'm wrong. I'm trying not to misrepresent you, Anatoly. What it sounds like you're saying is that the character of God in the Bible is an accurate representation of who God is, but isn't necessarily an accurate representation of like how God actually has been. It's metaphorical or allegorical. It details out like the actual character of God hypothetically, but not necessarily literally. It's as if I were to say like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, the book, right? Not really what Abraham Lincoln actually did, but the character in the book seems to be a good representation of who Abraham Lincoln was as a person. That's what we're talking about, right? When we're talking about this, is that a good analogy of what you're talking about?
In a way, sort of, but not completely true.
Fuck. Okay.
Okay, so where I will agree, it's that what you're saying is, basically what you're saying is that since it's not a perfect representation, right, then it can't be really God, because it's you. But I agree.
That's not what I'm saying.
Representation.
That's not what I'm saying at all. Can you actually just really quick, Anatoly, can you please just repeat the question that I have been asking you back to me?
Yes, is the God in the Bible actually the real God? I guess a physical God, a real person, you're asking. Is there
no. Okay, no, that is not what I'm asking you at all.
Okay.
So I'm going to try again, and I'm going to ask you the same question again, and I'm going to try to phrase it in a way that maybe we can get across here. So if I have a book like a historical fiction book, if I have a book about Theodore Roosevelt,
Can we say what you said earlier? Wait, can you read?
Because I said it 4 times and you clearly didn't get it. So I'm just going to give you a different way of saying the exact same thing. So if I have a book of historical fiction that talks about Theodore Roosevelt going to the moon, right? If the character in the book of Theodore Roosevelt acts the way that Theodore Roosevelt actually would have acted in that situation, then I can say this is a good representation of Theodore Roosevelt as a person. Not necessarily do I agree that he actually went to the fucking moon, right? That's what I think you are driving at.
Yes.
That's what I think you're driving at with God, is that the character of God in the Bible, the way God is described, the actions that God takes, the decisions God makes, those all sound like things that God would actually do. They are right up the alley of who God actually is as a person. That doesn't necessarily mean that he actually ever did those things. Is that what you are saying?
Yes.
Okay. So then, if then we can say exactly the same thing that I would be saying. You brought up slavery a minute ago. Normally, I would point out that the God of the Bible commands slavery. In the Bible, God explains not just that slavery is allowed, he gives instructions on how to do it. So what I can say to you in this situation is, even if that didn't happen, if that is an accurate representation of what God would have done in that scenario, he's still an evil piece of shit.
Well, the thing is that you got to understand it from the perspective of a person living at the time, right? So at the time,
we're not.
Slavery existed, right?
We're not, because
slavery
again,
exists now. So
yeah, slavery exists now, and it's still wrong. At the time, Anatoly, at the time, slavery was wrong. And God in the Bible, again, not saying this had to happen, not saying this did happen, but the God character in the Bible found the time to make very strict rules about disobeying your parents, about eating shellfish, about trimming your beard, about planting crops, about wearing specific garments, about cutting your hair. He burned 2 people alive for putting the wrong incense in an incense burner. The God of the Bible is very clear and very able to take strict actions to change societies in a massive way. But instead of stopping slavery, he made it happen more. He didn't just say it was bad. He said, do it.
No, he didn't make it happen more. He didn't make it. He didn't make it happen more. What he did.
He commanded it.
Rules. Yeah. What he didn't command it. What he did was he gave specific rules for the society that was there at the time.
He commanded it, though. Didn't he not tell Moses to take the Midianite girls for themselves, all the ones that didn't know a man? Isn't that slavery?
That's sex slavery.
And then I think he said, take the women into slavery, right? Murder the men, take the women into slavery. So that sounds like a command.
It might have been a command for that particular story, right? Yeah.
Okay, so then what you just said is that God did not command it. Now you say God commanded it maybe for that story.
What I'm saying,
I can literally read this part of your slaves, your male slaves and your female slaves, which you shall have, not may, shall have is what my version says. They shall be of the heathen around you. From them you shall buy male and female slaves. And it goes on to say that they are your property, that you can pass them down to your children. He goes on to explain how to beat them. He goes on to give different rules for Hebrew slaves, that they can only be tricked into lifelong slavery, and here's how to do it. Like, this God is evil, no matter what.
That evil God or society, right? I don't know if it's the structure, because it's 2 things there. Remember? My God, 2 things.
No, it's not. This is a story about a character, and the character is doing a thing.
I'm saying my God, right? What I said is my God is the structure of reality and social order on top of it.
But you also said that the character of God in the Bible is an accurate representation of the God that you believe in. So if you're saying that your God is just the structure of society, then that isn't an active thinking agent that makes decisions and has control over the world. That's just an evolutionary process involving flawed humans. And that's a totally different thing than what you said a minute ago.
No, it's not. I said the same thing. I'm saying is God is both of those things. And in that society, there was slavery at the time. And the story didn't end there, right? That's it. That's not the last thing it said, right? It wasn't like, this is how you own slaves at the end.
When did God
in the
fix
Bible?
that?
It was like, yeah. Right, that was a about-to-matter question, yes.
Yeah, like where does Jesus give the command to end slavery?
I'm sorry? Where does Jesus give the command to end slavery?
God or Jesus, whoever, right? The gods that you worship. You said the story doesn't end there. It goes on. So where then does it end? Where does God fix that problem and say no more slavery?
Well, he says lots of things inside the book that eventually led to us ending slavery.
No, that's not true.
Yes.
By the end of the book, there is still slavery. And then the book was used to justify slavery for long after that.
Yeah, I know. But, right. What I'm saying is that it was also the beginning of our moral social structure. Right?
No, it was not.
Our moral social structure. Well, yes, it was.
No, it was not.
It was. You're
No,
saying
I'm sorry, Anatoly. The Bible was absolutely not the beginning of moral social structure. I find it absolutely ridiculous that you think that human beings lived for hundreds of thousands of years and then suddenly 2,000 years ago, somewhere in Palestine, some guy got crucified and now we all have morals. Like that. That's simply not reasonable.
Well, I have a question, Anatoly. So let's take a look at the Bible a little bit deeper. So, do you believe that the 10 Commandments were a moral structure?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All
right. Well, they came before Exodus, right? They came before the part where God says, there shall be no, or there shall be slavery. So, I mean, that right there. Well, they came in Exodus, but I mean that story comes prior to the Exodus 21, the slavery. So I mean, right there,
the verses I was reading was even Leviticus as well.
Okay, well there you go. So multiple spots where God is commanding slavery. Never once says that there shouldn't be slavery, but even then, there are baselines for the development of human morality, going back even to the beginning of Genesis, where they eat from the tree of knowledge, right? And so now they know the difference between right and wrong, and they are like God, etc. That, even by your logic, shows that morality didn't just wait until the end, until Jesus was crucified or whatever it is you're talking about. The thing I have a problem with, though, the thing I'm really hung up on, is that you said that the Bible is the truth when you first called in, and then you said the Bible is merely an accurate representation of God, but not entirely. Which one is it, and how can it be both? And to caveat on that as well, or to add on that, you saying, well, God is the God of the Bible, but also social structure. You're casting such a wide net that nothing that we say can be an answer. We're always going to be wrong because you'll have some way of reinterpreting it. Why don't you just, forgive me, grow the balls to have an answer, have a definitive answer, and just tell us what it is you believe. And let's give up all of this, these hoops and hurdles that we have to jump over and through.
It's not a hoop at all. What I said was that was the old Jewish God. There's different gods in the Bible. Would you agree with that if you read it? In fact, the first stories are two separate stories of two different cultures that came together. I'm pretty sure they're read completely differently. But when they look,
I agree that the God of the Bible is interpreted in is represented in totally different ways, and I agree that the Bible is in no way univocal about God, who God is, what God can do, anything like that. So yes, a plain reading of the Bible would indicate that this God character is either several different people, or there are several different gods at the same time, or that the person writing the Bible is drunk. Either one.
There's three axioms that we have. We learned three things that our ancestors gave to us, right? And that's that there's social structure. There's social structure, then there's the structure of reality, then there's the truth inside of it, right? Saying it out loud is Jesus, right? That would be Jesus. To like the truth is Jesus. Jesus is the truth, right? So the truth is important because it's Jesus. Saying it out loud is important because that's godly, right? And then there's the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit is the thing inside of you that can learn. It's a piece that's inside of you that can die so that you're born anew. And that's learning. That's like if half my character, like if half my life, right, I'm like a terrible drug addict or an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic. What do they say? You have to admit you have a problem, and I have to let go of that part of my character. But it's half my life. You think that's going to be easy?
I don't think anything that you just said actually aligns with any kind of like moral system or common sense.
Talk to a priest and he'll tell you exactly the same thing.
We don't want to talk to a priest. I've spent enough time talking to clergy. I've been told all kinds of weird and hateful shit. If you were listening to the beginning of the show, some of the things that I've been told by religious leaders as a child, some of the hate that I was raised with and which was justified by the Bible, you would understand why there's no way that I would ever go to a priest or a pastor or a clergy member of any kind and get any kind of wisdom. Because the problem with your book, right, is that, and I understand that it's a compilation of different books, but the Bible in general is that the supernatural claims are not corroborated with any other source. So a pastor or a priest or a clergy member being an expert in the claims about God, right, is only an expert in what the Bible says and not anything else that can corroborate it. So they really have no expertise. It's kind of an oxymoron to be a biblical expert if you use it as a justification for supernatural claims. To be a biblical expert and to use it as a way to talk about culture of the ancient Near East or talk about the formation of Western society is a little bit different. What you're saying, these claims, well, I don't even know if I should say what you're saying because I don't really know what you're saying.
Because what is that, right?
Yeah, you're jumping all over the place and you're not giving us anything definitive. And we're just kind of, like I said, we're always going to be wrong because you're always going to have some explanation. Instead of giving us a definition that is concrete and then admitting when it gets torn down. You are trying to avoid that at every turn and at all costs, and instead are rambling all over the map. And I just don't know how to take you.
I don't know.
It is genuinely.
I gave you 3.
It's
for my God.
It's genuinely bizarre, Anatoly, because like I've asked you, like at the beginning of this call, I had to ask you the same, really, I think, basic question, like 5 or 6 different times in 2 or 3 different ways, just to get a halfway coherent answer out of you. And by the way, I don't know if the audience can hear it, but I can hear it almost every single time we start answering one of your questions or address some of you say, you keep talking for most of the time that we are talking. I hear it every time, which it tells me why you're not understanding half of the shit we're saying. And when you do give an answer, it's never direct. It's never what we're actually asking of you. It's some weird roundabout thing. I said a second ago that I think it's ridiculous to say that all us humans evolved in Africa 200,000 years ago and needed to wait 198,000 years for some blood sacrifice to be able to be moral. And then you gave me this weird runaround of like, well, there's these things that we're taught about the Bible, and number 1 is Jesus, and you have to have this because it's Jesus, and like and I can hear you talking right now. That's why you're not hearing it. I can hear you in the background still fucking talking to yourself.
Answer one thing.
Well, I'm trying to explain to you that what you're saying doesn't make any sense. I just want a straight answer to a straight question. Like, let me ask you this. Do you agree that morality, that morals, that ethics, all these things are an evolved trait? Do you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. Why?
Okay, great. So then we don't need some fucking desert war god to sacrifice himself to teach us how to be moral.
Do we have to understand morality to be moral?
We are evolved with it. We are evolved with morality. So we are born with morality, and then as we integrate into society, as our society grows, we reason it out and develop more better moral systems. And so everybody's morality is based on that evolutionary framework coupled with their intuitions based on their society, what their cultural norms teach them.
I would just say that I don't think we're born with morality. I think it took a very long time to digest it and understand it and write about it. And over time.
Okay, you don't think we're born with morality. So you think that every baby is just born amoral or immoral?
Yeah, I think that morality is learned because it's on top of us, like God. And we slowly.
Okay, then how do you explain the fact that non-human animals also exhibit moral behavior?
Because it's on top of us.
What does that mean?
System we live in. It's a system we live in. I would say it's God, but you would be like, no.
What system do dogs live under that is somehow God that causes them to make moral decisions? Or rats, or monkeys, or any of the other animals that we have seen proto-morality in?
Generally speaking, the more that they do it as a society, the better they become. They work together and they start.
Are you aware?
That's not what I asked you. That's not an answer to the question I asked you.
Did you? I wonder if he heard your opening, because there is a whole lot of shit happening out there in the world and in the societies that we live under, and people are being genocided, destroyed. Mm-hmm. I mean, Forrest named 3 or 4 key genocides happening around the world. And we all live under this structure. And you're saying that the more we practice morality in this society, the better we get at it. Yet I would say that we are seeing killings on a scale that we haven't seen probably since the 1950s. And so that's alarming to me that you think your God is in charge of a system where morality is the result. Why would he be so concerned with a dog, let's say, pulling another dog out of a river to prevent it from drowning, and give that as evidence instead of stopping a major genocide? Why is the society that is your God choosing that option over the other?
What I'm saying is, I guess that's free will. I don't know. If he could just show us that there would be no free will, if you just knew what was right all the time and you were actually born with morality, I would say you have no free will because you're just programmed to, like, you're like a AI robot.
So just to be clear, when mice and rats exhibit proto-morality in laboratory settings, we can say that that's God, but when genocide happens in Gaza, in Ukraine, in Sudan, in Congo, in China, now that's just free will.
I said no. When that happens in a lab setting, right, that's them understanding, right, that there's something there that if they act this way, things will be good. And that.
What are you, the mice or the scientists?
Yes, the mice. The mice.
So you think, so the mice,
right? What do you think?
You're telling me that the mice are able to comprehend that if they save their cage mate from a painful situation, that eventually down the line, mouse society will improve in some way?
Not the way that you do, if that's what you're asking. But yes, to an extent.
And meanwhile, the humans who are currently committing genocide, they don't understand that.
No, they don't. No, they don't.
Okay.
Because they have free will.
So what's the difference then? What's the difference between if someone is born without morals and someone and like what is the thing that makes someone understand that here are the moral actions I need to take in order to not be a genocidal maniac? What exactly is that?
I mean, that's a very complicated question. The problem with genocidal maniacs is what they do is they fall in love with a theory, right? And it makes perfect sense to them. And even though it doesn't fit on reality, right? They gerrymander reality into their theory. That's like.
So now,
the South.
if that's the case, if that's the case, if the only difference between an immoral or an amoral, if an amoral baby can grow up to be the most, helpful, wonderful person in the world, or can turn into the most evil, vile son of a bitch in the world, right? And it's totally about what theories they subscribe to and all this stuff. Please explain how the insular cortex works and why it's there.
Do I have to explain that in order to say what? I mean, I could find out. You want me to find out?
I can tell you. The insular cortex is a part of your brain which, among other things, handles moral thinking. It combines when you think of nasty, rotten, disgusting food and it makes you feel sick to your stomach. It is the exact same part of your brain that does that also makes you sick to your stomach when you see horrible, rotten, nasty behavior. The reason why we say this rapist, this pedophile, this murderer, this whatever, this person turns my stomach, this person leaves a bad taste in my mouth, whatever, is because it's the same part of your brain that does both. So was one of the reasons why we say morality is an evolved thing. The same part of your brain that handles visceral disgust handles moral disgust. This is something that evolution has done over the course of a long ass period of time, and it's clearly a conserved trait that we see around a lot of mammals. So I'm asking you, why do you have a dedicated part of your brain that without you trying is able to handle moral thinking, without a societal norm behind it, is able to understand injustice and undue harm and harm to children and all this other shit? This part of your brain that you are just born with, why is that there and how does it work if the only difference between Hitler and Ray Charles is how they were raised and what theories they subscribe to?
You know that Hitler found Jews disgusting.
Are you going to answer a single fucking question on this phone call? Like, what are you doing, dude?
What I'm saying is that's not the part of your brain that's responsible for morality, because Hitler found Jews disgusting. You don't kill something that way that you actually fear. You fear like a...
Yeah, we're going to talk. That's how dehumanization works. It also isn't an answer to my question.
It is. You said that that's the part of your brain that's responsible for morality. I'm telling you it's not, because that part of the brain was overstimulated in Hitler when he saw a Jew. So where is the morality?
What you're describing is how dehumanization works. Because this is the same part of the brain that handles disgust and all visceral and moral disgust, you can learn about this shit. That's how, when we dehumanize people and we used dehumanizing language, like calling people cockroaches, vermin, rats, subhumans, whatever, when we use that kind of language that often precedes genocide, the same part of your brain lights up when you see this person, and yes, you are disgusted by them. This part of your brain can be hijacked to make you into an evil person while thinking that you're doing something good. That I'm trying to just get you. Do you need me to fucking give you the answer that I'm going for to just make it easier?
No, I told you my answer. I disagree with you. I would say that's the immoral part of your brain. All right.
Okay, cool. Neuroscience is wrong. Great. I was trying to actually play to what you were saying and give you a reason to make this make half of sense, but like, clearly we're not going to do that.
It's not true. What I'm saying is if the part of the brain that lit up in Hitler was the part of your brain you call the moral part of the brain and it was overstimulated, it's not the moral part of the brain.
It's not what I said. I didn't say it was the moral part of your brain. I said it was a part of the brain that is in part, among other things, handles some moral thinking.
Okay, cool. Awesome. All right.
And I was trying like hell to give you something that made fucking sense, even a little bit, so we can actually have something to debate about and something to talk about, rather than just talking about whatever weird fucking idea you've woken up with today. Because I still don't even fundamentally know whether the God you believe in is a physical guy or not. You've yet to answer any straightforward question.
Yeah, I want to get back to that. Because Anatoly, you've hijacked this conversation and just kind of thrown all kinds of different landmines in it. And I want to ask you one thing, okay? So you brought up the two different accounts of Genesis, right? They're different. Chapter 1, chapter 2. Okay, so chapter 1 is God, and he exists outside of the Garden of Eden, right? He is this this person that, or this being, I should say, that is clearly superior in every way to human beings. Chapter 2, however, God is, as he's creating the Garden of Eden, is physically walking around in the garden and is a distinguishable human-like creature. Okay, which one is accurate?
Heard what people say about what this means, but if you would like, I could explain it. And actually,
I just want you to answer like
he literally. What do you think it means when he asked you a question? Do you think he didn't want you to explain the answer?
okay, so you want me to explain what walking with God means, right? Because
no, I don't want you to explain
God.
what walking with God means.
What? Dude. Again, I'm going to ask you again, Anatoly, what question did Jimmy Jr. just ask you? What question were you asked? Just repeat it back.
Okay, he asked me a really long question. If I were to ask you a question that has freaking 30 words in it.
It wasn't long, and you are accusing us of not reading the Bible. What are you talking about?
Engage your critical faculties here. Take the information that was given to you and summarize it in your own words. Tell me what question he asked you.
He basically said that there's two different gods. There's a God that's outside of reality, and then there's a God that's walking in the garden. Do I believe that they're the same God, I think? Right?
Nope. Once again, nope. He asked you, which one do you think is real? Because they cannot be both.
Why can't I think both of them? Why?
Then you should justify that.
Reality can't.
If he said which one is real, you could have said both, and here's why. But you didn't. You made up another question.
Question earlier.
And you are still talking while I'm explaining it to you.
I already answered this. What I'm saying is I don't believe in an actual place that's called fucking heaven, right? That we were all walking in. I believe that we evolved.
No one asked you about heaven.
First time I've heard that word today.
You were saying that was working with. You said there's two different gods in the Bible, and he was walking in heaven, right? With God.
That's not what I said. Listen. All right. Chapter 1, Genesis. God is creating life from outside of the Garden of Eden. Chapter 2, Genesis. God is creating life while he is walking around inside the Garden of Eden. Which account is accurate?
What are you asking me? If you're outside of something, can you walk into it, or what's the question?
Anatoly, we are at the end of the show. You fundamentally lack the ability to hear someone and interpret what they are saying and answer a fucking question. It's genuinely remarkable that someone can say something to you simply, plainly, and directly, and you will make up another thing that you think they said and then answer that. It's fucking wild. I am actually genuinely encouraging you to really just fucking try baby books about reading comprehension and listening comprehension and how to understand when someone says something to you, they're saying the thing that they said, not whatever the fuck you wanted them to say, not whatever the fuck you think they said. Whatever they said is the thing they said. That shouldn't be a hard concept. I encourage you to practice with it. But for now, it's 4 minutes till the end of the show. I think it's good for us to wrap up. Jimmy Jr., what do you think? Do you want to continue beating your head against this particular brick wall?
No, I think once you're done with the baby books, maybe you should read the Bible after that.
That'd be a great place to start. Anyway, have an awesome rest of your day, Anatoly. And again, what I just said is have an awesome rest of your day. That means have an awesome rest of your day. And whatever the fuck you think I meant by that, who knows? Have a good day now. Bye-bye. Good gravy, dude.
Wow.
It's just...
I hope at least, maybe he won't admit it outwardly, but I hope in some way he's questioning something about what he already believes. Maybe his preconceived notions have been challenged just enough that he's going to do some investigation and just won't admit it to us. And I'm fine with that.
I don't think, and I mean this sincerely, I don't think he knows what just happened. I don't think that he understands the conversation that we just had in any respect. I was trying to give him ammunition against us, and I couldn't give him, I couldn't get a solid argument out of him. I couldn't get a single sentence. Just wild, dude.